Hey, real quick, I just wanted to confirm on the C6Z06 manual transmission, that's a mechanical diff, obviously, right?
Yeah, it's mechanical. It's got clutches in it,
Yeah.
clutches and steels. They're on either side of the the side spider gears.
What about the
And
automatic C6 Stingray and Grand Sports?
C6s, those were what?
Those were mechanical as well, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So I've really put this whole thing together now, and if you got to go, you can go. I don't need to
No,
tell you
no, no,
this,
no.
but I've really put
And the
together.
way that mechanical diff works is super simple. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at the bevel is cut in such a way on the side spiders and the two small spiders that ride on a pin, so that when the more load those gears have on them, the more the side gears are repelled by the smaller
Right.
pins. They push them further off to the side.
Right. It's
And in doing
physics.
so, it compresses the clutch packs. And
Yeah.
so it'll go from 100% open diff when you're coasting to under full throttle. It'll go to, with lack of a better term, 100% locked.
So there were no ediffs on the C5 even then. Is that correct?
No, that's correct. They were mechanical diff, same style, just not as beefy.
Okay. So basically, here's what General Motors did, and I've really put it all together. So when they went to the mid-engine platform, which was supposed to be the C7, we know that, but they always blame it on the bankruptcy of why it didn't happen, right?
Right.
So when they were going to the mid-engine Corvette, they found out that underneath certain braking conditions, the car would spin like an old school Porsche. Okay.
Right.
So with that said, there's only two ways to mitigate that from happening. Okay, three ways, let's say. One is electronic stability control, but the problem is electronic stability control is like a reactive program. And once that back end starts coming around, it's really hard to save it. So that's not going to...
Yeah, it's like it's too late. So
Right.
It's better to happen before it happens. Better to stop it before it happens.
Right. So the only two ways to stop it before it happens is one, lock up the ediff, which we've been through, time and again, so we're familiar with that subject. The second way to do it is you reduce overall brake force down to a number where you know that the tires aren't going to lose mechanical grip if you see a situation. And what's interesting is, and you haven't experienced this yet on the C7, or excuse me, on the C8s, because you haven't driven one yet.
I haven't. I've driven them, but I haven't driven them hard. I've driven them with the owner in the passenger seat.
So the first thing that everybody notices if they're a hot driver and they go to like a track or whatever, they quickly notice that there's times when the car takes away the brake force and it's just not that strong. And originally I thought it was the ABS was firing, and that the ABS is just simply not lighting. All that the car does to tell you that the ABS is firing is the dashboard blinks a little bit here and there.
In the hard instances, you can feel the pulse at the pedal. You can almost feel it kick you back.
Well, but in a C8, that's not the case because it's fly-by-wire brakes, so the pedal is silent. It doesn't move.
Right, okay.
So there's the problem. So originally we just thought that was the issue. We thought that, the brake pedal needs to vibrate. Well, what we've realized is they purposefully made it so the brake pedal doesn't vibrate. That way we wouldn't be able to log the difference between two separate programs. So there's a second program. So the ABS is the first program. We all know how that works. The brake pedal would vibrate, and that's that. Okay.
Right.
The second program that people are supposed to be kept in the dark from, the GM does not want people to know that it exists, is when the car just simply takes away the brake force and takes it down to 70. Here's how we know it's real, other than the seat of my pants, where it's painfully obvious to me and many other people. The PDR will show 100% brake force up in the top right corner, but you're only pulling 0.7, 0.8 stopping G's instead of 1.3.
Right.
Okay.
That's drastically reduced. Not half, but,
almost there.
You've noticed that from the driver's seat.
Oh, yeah.
Your eyeballs aren't trying to detach from your head at that rate.
Right. And so the guy who wrecked at Laguna Seca, he's uploaded...
I saw that wreck.
So he's uploaded the video of inside the PDR, the car, and it shows that he only had 0.7, 0.8, 0.9 braking G-force, when in the turns prior he had 1.3.
Right. So he was executing the turn and expecting the car to perform just like it had done prior, or even on a previous lap.
Well, he was trying it wasn't even a turn, John. He was on the straight still, cresting the hill.
Right, and it overshot the turn and hit the wall there.
Right, but it took away his brake force. So he had 20%, 30%,
Yeah,
40%.
I just saw the clip and I figured,
Yeah.
well, this is the first time around the track.
No.
He's not familiar with that turn because he way overshot that motherfucker.
Right.
What you're saying makes sense.
So what happens is you go from being overshooting it by, see, a good driver adds on, an extra 2% each lap or something like that, extra speed. So this thing ends up saying, not only is your 2% too much, but we're going to reduce your brake pressure by at least 20%. And now, therefore, you're going to stop at least 25% longer distance, which will get you killed. It's that simple.
Oh,
you know. And so,
this guy was lucky to walk away from that, man. I saw the wreck.
Yeah. So, anyway, here's what's really great about my lemon. My lemon, I don't know if you remember me talking about this, but when I went from the steel brake Z06 to the ceramic brake Z06, which is what I have now on the C8, the ceramic brake Z06 goes into this mode far more often. And so I was taking the car into the service department immediately for both ticking motor and just brakes that were inconsistent. I paid out of pocket to have them bleed the brakes, and the brakes are still inconsistent.
Because that wasn't the problem.
Right.
Yeah, because they're dealer people. They just want to make you feel like they're going to do something that's going to solve your problem and get paid.
Well, GM refused to even pay the brake bleed under warranty on a brand new car. So I had to pay it. So it's actually GM. The dealer was understanding and willing to do whatever, but GM is the one who shot it down.
It's like, yeah, that could be it,
Yeah.
We both know that's not it.
Right. So here's the big epiphany that I've had. Okay. General Motors needed to use the C7 as a test bed for a few things. One, the ediff. Two, the way that they were going to do their PDR strategy, where they show commanded brake and they show commanded throttle, but the car doesn't actually give you that. And you and I have already been through this.
Yeah, the car absolutely doesn't give you commanded throttle. And PDR will show that. If you're in a drag race,
right,
you put it to the floor, it will show 100% throttle. If you look at your HP tuner data logs, you'll see right out the gate you're getting 38%, and it slowly ramps up to 100%.
Right.
Over a period of time, and it's typically like a second and a half.
And it has to do with whether you have your foot on the brake.
Yeah, well, you're like in second gear. In a stock C7Z, you're in second gear before the throttle's actually wide open.
Right, but it has to do with if you start out with your foot on the brake or not, that alters it further.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does, because it doesn't want you to come off the brake and launch like that.
Right. So commanded throttle is not real throttle. Same thing with brakes. Commanded brakes is not real brakes.
Right.
And so here, you know who Chris Crawford is, right?
Yes, I know who he is.
So Chris divulged to me a long time ago when I was on the Corvette forum under the Mike C7Z account. Chris divulged to me on a phone call, and I think it's even in text message, but it's definitely over phone call for sure. We had long discussions about it. He said, Brandon, there's something going on with the brake control module. And he told me the same thing about the launching at the drag strip and everything. He's like, but there's something going on with the brake control module. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I wanted to get access to see what the code was. Like HP Tuners gets access to all this stuff, and